Hello there, I'm Karim Zachary and you're watching All 24 News World News Program live from the capital Algiers. Next up are the headlines. The Israeli occupation keeps breaking the ceasefire deal, bombing Gaza again and using aid as leverage, while Palestinian resistance says disarmament only comes after the occupation ends. Also in our news, Sonatrach's new CEO Rashid Dowdy promises smooth leadership for Africa's top energy group, and Norway's Equinor hails Algeria as a solid, reliable partner. In Sudan, the RSF says it's taken Al-Fashir after attacking a hospital. The army, though, claims it still controls the city's north. And in Ukraine, Moscow warns of a harsh response to Kiev's strike inside Russia. The Kremlin blames Europe's war talk for stalling peace, while Trump says he won't meet Putin unless he's serious about a truce. Full reports straight ahead. Welcome back to the program. It's great to have you with us tonight. First up in our news, the Israeli occupation forces keep breaking the ceasefire in Gaza Strip, this time targeting displaced families across the entire strip. According to the Palestinian news agency, troops blew up residential buildings Sunday night in Gaza City's Zaytun and Shujaiya neighborhoods. Drones also hit Khan Yunis and Nusayrat in the south and center of the strip, killing one person and wounding 4 others Saturday evening. Meanwhile, UNICEF has launched an urgent appeal to tackle the growing famine in Gaza. Regional Director Edward Bigbetter urged on Sunday the immediate opening of all crossings to let life-saving aid in, as conditions for children worsen by the day. The agency says over 58,000 children have been orphaned and 1 million more are struggling just to survive. International rights groups are warning that Israel is using aid as a weapon of war, tightening pressure on Gaza's population despite the ceasefire. Zahra Farjani reports now.
From the Zionist occupation perspective, a ceasefire in Gaza doesn't necessarily mean that the killing has stopped. On the contrary, it's just another moment for renewed crimes. Squeezing Gazans through starvation and using humanitarian aid as a pressure tool to push them out of the strip.
Israel is still using humanitarian aid as a pressure card against Palestinians. The food situation remains worrying, even with slight improvements. Our teams continue to record severe malnutrition among children and pregnant women. Humanitarian aid is urgently needed, but it must never be tied to political conditions.
Human rights and humanitarian organizations have denounced what they call a policy of controlling both the amount and type of aid entering Gaza, aimed at subjugating the population and wiping them out fully or partially. This is a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement and a continuation of the occupation's practices against Palestinians.
The Palestinian Center for Human Rights strongly condemns Israel's ongoing blockade and its obstruction of sustainable humanitarian aid since the ceasefire began on October 10, 2025. Israel has allowed only about 1,008 trucks, while Gaza needs roughly 600 trucks every single day to cover the massive humanitarian needs.
Meanwhile, UNICEF confirms it is racing against time to save the lives of over 1 million children facing unprecedented threats from famine and the destruction caused by a war that has already raged for more than a year.
We are racing against time to save children's lives from preventable threats like malnutrition, disease, and the winter cold. We are scaling up malnutrition treatment in the face of famine.
A destroyed territory in an ongoing war of starvation. This is the reality in Gaza today. It warns of a new chapter in the humanitarian disaster and exposes just how fragile the ceasefire has become, a weapon now wielded by the Zionist occupation to subdue a population already exhausted by a genocidal war that has destroyed every trace of normal life.
For its part, the Palestinian civil defense in Gaza is warning about the danger of bombed-out buildings, calling them time bombs that threaten thousands of lives. The warning came after a child was killed under the rubble of her home in Gaza City's Sabra neighborhood. The organization is urging the entry of heavy equipment to help clear the massive debris and protect families now living in tents amid the destruction. And in another story, Hamas leader in Gaza, Khalil al-Haya, says the movement has no issue with any national figure running Gaza's administration. He confirmed that Hamas is ready to hand over all responsibilities, including security, to an administrative committee. Al-Haya added that there is an agreement with other factions, including Fatah, on bringing in international forces to oversee the ceasefire and reconstruction. He also said Hamas wants elections to help reunite Palestinians under one authority and one government.
We have no objections to any national figure residing in Gaza managing the affairs of the Strip, and we will hand over all administrative powers in Gaza, including security, to the administrative committee. We have reached an agreement with the Fatah movement regarding UN forces for separation and monitoring of the ceasefire. And we have also agreed with all factions on the role of the UN body for reconstruction in Gaza. We want to move toward elections as a step to reunify the national front. We are one people, and we want one authority and one government.
Al-Haya also said Hamas's weapons are tied to the ongoing occupation and aggression, noting that the issue is still being discussed with factions and mediators, and that the agreement is still in its early stages. Let's have a listen.
Our weapon is tied to the presence of the occupation and ongoing aggression. Once the occupation ends, these weapons will be transferred to the state. The issue of weapons is still under discussion with factions and mediators, and the agreement is still in its early stages. We will not take any stance without the agreed upon national position.
And in occupied Palestine, a 14-year-old Palestinian boy was seriously wounded after being shot by occupation forces during a raid into Bas in the occupied West Bank. The Red Crescent says he was hit by live bullets in the legs and taken to hospital. This comes as Zionist forces carried out wide raids across several West Bank cities, including Tulkaram, Al-Khalil, Nablus, and Ramallah, arresting 13 people, among them a former prisoner, and wounding another young man near Al-Quds. Algerian lawyers have stressed the need to protect the International Criminal Court's independence in prosecuting war crimes in Gaza. At a solidarity rally outside the Algiers Judicial Council, they announced a legal petition urging the ICC to speed up its investigation into the genocide. Palestinian lawyers at the event praised Algeria's strong stance at the UN and its continued efforts to hold the Zionist entity accountable for its crimes.
Respect for the law, especially the International Criminal Court, which has issued orders and international decisions that have not yet been enforced, is often lacking. Why? Because there are international pressures from certain known entities aimed at escaping punishment and avoiding the implementation of these decisions.
Algeria's Minister of State for Hydrocarbons and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, has officially installed Noureddin Daoudi as the new CEO of Sonatrach, succeeding Rashid Hashishi. Mr. Arqab praised Daoudi's 35 years of experience, including more than 3 decades in oil exploration, calling him one of the key figures in Algeria's energy sector. In a speech, Daoudi promised flexible, forward-looking leadership for Africa's largest energy company, vowing to open Sonatrach to new horizons through investment in clean and renewable energy and innovation.
I, along with all the executives and employees, will strive to contribute to building a stronger and more resilient institution, one that embraces new horizons and looks to the future with confidence. Our vision for Sonatrach's future is for it to be a leading regional and global institution, capable of ensuring national energy security and strengthening Algeria's position on the international stage, while adhering to the values of sustainability and environmental and social responsibility.
The appointment of Noureddin Daoudi as head of Sonatrach comes as Algeria's energy and mining sectors gain new momentum. It reflects President Abdelmajid Tebboun's vision to strengthen Algeria's role as a reliable energy supplier while pushing for sustainable development. More details with Salman Asseb.
In a rapidly shifting global energy landscape, Algeria is entering a new phase of modernization marked by the appointment of a new chairman and CEO at Sonatrach, Africa's largest energy group. The move signals the start of institutional revitalization and technological innovation.
While we value the remarkable achievements accomplished by the group, we are counting on this new phase to mark a qualitative leap toward institutional takeoff and technological innovation.
The new leadership team takes charge at a pivotal moment as global energy markets undergo profound transformation. For Sonatrach, the challenges are clear: strengthen gas production capacity, expand downstream industries, and forge stronger international partnerships to meet growing global demand.
Today, the authorities face major challenges alongside promising opportunities in a world undergoing profound transformations in the energy sector. Increasing national production capacity, particularly in natural gas, and strengthening petrochemical projects to develop the manufacturing industry are among the key priorities. Expanding international cooperation through the signing of new partnership agreements with leading global companies such as Chevron and ExxonMobil also represent a strategic step forward.
At the same time, the energy transition is no longer a distant goal but a strategic imperative. Sonatrach is now accelerating efforts to cut its carbon footprint, adopt cleaner technologies, and embrace more efficient, sustainable production models in line with global trends.
Today, Algeria is relying on Sonatrach to remain at the forefront of leading institutions through innovation, responsible investment, and environmental commitment.
The appointment of Noureddin Daoudi at the helm reflects Algeria's determination to turn challenges into opportunities, strengthening Sonatrach's role as a key global energy player capable of adapting to evolving geopolitical shifts and leading the way toward a more resilient energy future.
Still with energy-related news, Norway's Equinor is looking to boost its partnership with Algeria's Sonatrach, eyeing new energy projects in the country. At a meeting in Algiers, Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab and Equinor's Executive Vice President Philip Mathieu discussed ways to grow cooperation in oil and gas exploration and production. Mr. Arqab said Algeria remains committed to a transparent and competitive climate for investors, while Equinor praised Algeria as a solid, reliable partner and expressed interest in expanding into clean energy and cutting gas emissions. In another story, Algeria has signed the UN Convention Against Cybercrime, a move the Foreign Ministry says reflects a strong commitment to global cooperation against new digital threats. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Hanoi, Secretary General Nounes Magraman highlighted Algeria's role in drafting the deal, calling it another success for Algerian diplomacy under President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. He said the convention sets a binding legal framework to fight cybercrime worldwide and praised Algeria's push for digital transformation as a top national priority.
تعتز الجزائر بالدور البارز التي ما فتئت تبذله.
Algeria takes pride in the prominent role it has played while accompanying the governmental process that was recently crowned by the adoption of the first global convention on combating cybercrime. Algeria also expresses its appreciation for the joint efforts and mutual trust with member states and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, in order to achieve three main objectives in the short and medium term: accelerating the completion of procedures for accession to the United Nations Convention on Combating Cybercrime and ensuring its entry into force as soon as possible, confirming half of the participating delegations and preparing for the convening of the meeting of the states parties to the convention next January, actively contributing to the upcoming negotiation process concerning the additional protocol which will address other forms of crimes that may fall within the scope of the convention.
On a related note, participants at the high-level symposium in Hanoi praised Algeria's key role in drafting the first global convention to fight cybercrime. They hailed Algeria's leadership throughout 4 years of tough negotiations led by Ambassador Fawzi Ambarki, who chaired the UN committee behind the agreement. The convention was officially adopted by the United Nations and opened for signing in the Vietnamese capital. Moving on, elsewhere in Africa, in Sudan, a nurse was killed and 3 others were injured after the Rapid Support Forces targeted El Fasher Hospital. The Sudanese Doctors Network condemned the repeated shelling, saying medical staff were hit while treating the wounded. It also urged the World Health Organization to step in and ensure the protection of health facilities across the entire country. In Sudan still, the Rapid Support Forces say they've taken full control of El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, after more than a year of siege and fierce battles with the army. But the army's popular resistance group denies the claim, insisting the city remains under its control and accusing the RSF of running a media campaign to hurt troop morale. Military sources say heavy fighting and airstrikes are ongoing around El Fasher and nearby areas as the army carries out what it calls a strategic redeployment to strengthen its positions. In Europe, shelling is still rocking the front lines between Russia and Ukraine, as Moscow warns of a stunning response to Ukrainian strikes deep inside its territory using Western weapons. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he'll only meet Vladimir Putin if the Russian leader is serious about a ceasefire. Yasin Arikti reports.
In a fresh escalation of the war in Ukraine, Russian drone strikes on Kyiv killed 3 people and injured 31, including 6 children, according to Ukrainian officials. The overnight assault comes as Moscow warns it will respond forcefully to any Ukrainian attacks deep inside Russian territory, while claiming new advances in several directions, including Sumy and Kharkiv.
There is a lot of speculation going on right now, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky himself, incidentally, recently stated that allegedly possessed the military potential to strike deep into Russia, naturally our armed forces, and Russia will respond harshly to this, and as Putin said, staggeringly.
Russia's defense ministry said its forces had intercepted 116 Ukrainian drones and destroyed 3 guided bombs over the past 24 hours. The ministry added that Russian strikes targeted energy facilities, weapons transport vehicles and temporary deployment site of Ukrainian troops. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts appeared to be losing momentum. US President Donald Trump said he would not meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin until a peace deal is in place, signaling Washington's cautious stance amid renewed fighting.
I'm going to have to know that we're going to make a deal. I'm not going to be wasting my time. I've always had a great relationship with Vladimir Putin, but this has been very disappointing. I thought this would have gone long before peace in the Middle East.
On the Russian side, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed that both leaders see no point in holding a summit for now, calling the preparation process complicated.
The idea that there is no point in holding the summit for now first came from President Trump, but President Putin later echoed that view in his own statements. It is not possible for two presidents to meet merely for the sake of meeting, nor simply waste their time, and they have said so openly. Therefore, Lavrov and Rubio must prepare the groundwork for this effort. It is a complex process, and much work remains before a new summit can be arranged.
As the war grinds on and diplomatic channels narrow, hopes for de-escalation remain dim, with Kyiv bracing for more strikes and Moscow showing no sign of backing down.
In the same context, the Kremlin says Europe's military hysteria is to blame for blocking peace talks with Ukraine. Presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov also took a swipe at Washington, saying President Trump's rush to solve global crisis doesn't really match the complex reality of the war in Ukraine.
The sincere desire of President Trump to resolve major crises, including the ones surrounding Ukraine, undoubtedly evokes only positive feelings, and Putin has spoken about this repeatedly. But sometimes the excessive haste, of course, contrasts sharply with the reality, because a conflict like the Ukrainian one, with its underlying causes, is so complex that it's impossible to resolve overnight. We see Europe literally in a state of military hysteria. This is the reason for the pause. Given the pause, Trump understands, of course, that there is no reason to believe that progress toward a peaceful solution can be made in the short term.
Russia says it's keeping communication lines open with the United States despite the rising tensions. Presidential envoy Kirill Dmitriev made the remarks during a visit to Washington, part of an ongoing effort to maintain dialogue between the two sides. Let's take a listen.
From an economic standpoint, the Russian economy is in a good condition. As we know, Russia's economic growth exceeded 4% last year, while the economy of the United Kingdom and those of Europe grew up less than 1%. The ruble has also strengthened, among other factors, by 40% against the dollar this year, making it the best performing currency of the year. In addition, Russia's level of debt is much lower than that of many Western countries.
And in another topical story, senior U.S. and Chinese trade officials wrapped up 2 days of talks in Kuala Lumpur on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. The U.S. Treasury Department confirmed the round ended on Sunday, as both sides tried to set the stage for a meeting between President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping later this week. Karim Masfawi reports now.
After 2 days of negotiations in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, economic officials from China and USA confirmed on Sunday they have reached an agreement that should ease tensions between the world's two largest economies. China's chief trade negotiator said both sides had reached what he described as preliminary consensus on key trade issues.
Yesterday and today in Kuala Lumpur, the two sides have candid and in-depth discussions and exchanges on topics of mutual interest, including multiple issues. The US position has been tough, whereas China has been firm in defending its own interests and rights. The two sides have reached preliminary consensus on these issues, and next we are each going to go through our domestic internal approval processes.
From his side, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that China would postpone restrictions on rare earth exports needed for advanced technologies after President Donald Trump threatened to impose an additional 100% tariff if Beijing went ahead with its export limit.
On the table, the president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that so that the tariffs will be averted.
Over the past month, Washington and Beijing economic and trade relations have faced renewed turbulence and fluctuations. Kuala Lumpur's talks are seen now as an effort to set the stage for an upcoming meeting between President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping later this week in Korea.
And finally, it's time to catch up on other news stories making headlines in the News in Brief with Sofian Kantouri.
Thousands protested across Moroccan cities Saturday against corruption and repression, demanding the release of political detainees and accountability for corrupt officials. Cambodia and Thailand signed a ceasefire agreement in Kuala Lumpur, witnessed by US President Donald Trump following a 3-month truce. Donald Trump said the U.S. will pursue a trade deal with Brazil after meeting President Lula da Silva in Malaysia, signaling the following recent tariff hikes.
Japan, we have South Korea.
Independent left-wing candidate Catherine Connolly has won Ireland's presidential election with over 63% of the vote, defeating Heather Humphreys. She will succeed Michael Higgins on November 11, becoming the country's third female president.
And that's the end of our news for tonight. To catch up on any part you missed or get the latest updates, you can always visit our social media platforms. On behalf of all 24 News team, I'm Karim Zachary. Thank you for watching and bye for now.